Hey everyone, I'm Alexis Rima and welcome to this week's Halloween edition of Torch Sports. We have a great episode lined up for you today. As always, on Orange Zone, Jackson, Zach, Colton, and Luke will debrief last week's Tennessee-Alabama game. Grant and Luke are giving 6 takes on college football and NFL on Pick 6. On Rocky Talk, Matthew, Caitlin, and Jordan dive into MLB, NBA, and NFL. Later on, Jay will discuss the Volunteers and Titans on Sportscast. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at Torch Sports UTK and on TikTok at Torch Sports. Now let's head over to Jackson to kick off Orange Zone.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Orange Zone. I'm your host Jackson Schock alongside our OZ analysts Zach Pelfrey, Luke Attal, and Colton Pennington. Let's dive in. This weekend, the Vols headed down to Tuscaloosa in hopes of defending their monumental win from last year. And they started right where they left off. On the opening drive, Joe Milton lobs it right to the hands of Squirrel White to push the Vols up 7. Tennessee would also add 2 field goals to their first quarter lead. We're in the second quarter now, and Alabama is still looking for their first score, and they get it here courtesy of this Jalen Milroe rocket to Jermaine Burton. Then, it's Alabama again, knocking on the door. Milroe's going to look to take the lead with this deep ball to the corner, but it's going to get tipped, and it's going to be intercepted by the Vols, so they're going to be able to get a last chance. So the Vols push down the field with the half dwindling. Milton throws it to Ramel Keaton, who makes a grown man's catch right over number 3 on that defense. No chance in him stopping that. But they're not done yet. Vols without a timeout. Joe Milton quickly gets the ball to Castles to end their stellar first half. But that would be all the Tennessee highlights that we have, and it's just Alabama from here. So Vol fans, close your eyes. Miller's going to hit a wide open Isaiah Bond to get the Tides comeback started, and it just gets from bad to worse. Tennessee down a touchdown, trying to move the ball, but Bama forces the fumble, and it's over. Alabama takes it to the house and seals the Vols' fate. So guys, what the heck happened? What just happened? What did we just watch? That just blunder in the second half.
I want to start off by saying that this game, haters may say different, but this game was not Joe Milton's fault. I believe solely it was the second half coaching. I could go on and ramble, blah, 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 but after we went into the locker room, Alabama made adjustments, and we did not.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it was the coaching in the second half. Absolutely. I mean, when you're up 13 points, going into the second half, and you should win the game. I know Nick Saban, probably the best coach in history of college football, but it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you're up by that much, you dominate in the first half, you've got to come out in the second half and keep that momentum going and win this game. I mean, Joe Milton, 16 of 22 in the first half, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the third quarter, he had 6 pass attempts. First drive out of the gate, 3 run attempts. I mean, I don't understand what Heupel was doing, and I think he's to blame for this loss, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm right on the same page as you guys are. This was kind of a backwards game from what we've seen from the Vols, where the run game struggled, but the passing game was pretty good the first half. And I mean, to me, it just seemed like, Joe was slinging it, and we didn't let him do that in the second half. Like you said, 6 pass attempts. If he's throwing the ball well, we got to let him throw the ball. And I think that was the problem. We just didn't make the adjustment to continue letting him do his thing that we did in the first half.
Absolutely. Now, Colton, where do we go from here? It seems like everyone's kind of like the season's over, we're done, but where do you think the Vols should go from here and what they can do?
I mean, the season is not over. I mean, come on. I mean, I know we go, to Tennessee. We're Tennessee fans, but I mean, this is a game that, everybody on College Game Day picked Alabama. Every single person I was looking at picked Alabama to win this game. So it may have been a little biased to think that we had a real shot and we should have won this game. But still, and we had it in the first half. The second half, it just fell apart. But if we can keep what we did in the first half, go into these games against Kentucky, Missouri, Georgia, we've got a shot against all these games. I think Alabama away is by far the toughest atmosphere we'll be in all season. Alabama at home under Nick Saban is 103-9, and everybody thought for some reason we were just going to go and win this game. It's just like the season is not over. We can still make a New Year's Six bowl game. We can still finish 9-3, 10-2 easily. So the season's definitely not over yet.
Beautiful is that.
Yeah, I think if you're a Volunteer fan, you just got to look at that first half. The second half wasn't great, but the first half we looked like a really good and really solid football team. I think going forward, Alabama showed they can stop our run. We haven't really seen that from a team this year. I think if you're the Volunteers going forward now, you got to, keep Joe throwing. If he continues to throw like he did in that game, we're going to look like a really good football team.
Absolutely. Zach, where do we go from here?
I think it's really sad that we have to keep talking about where do we go from here. We're 7 games into this season, and we're still wondering what Tennessee is going to do. I think all we have to do now is just win. You got to win games. You got to win those big road games, and if you can't, then where are we going to go?
Exactly. Now, where do you think our ceiling is? Like on a win standpoint, do you think we can still make an SEC final? Where do you see the Vols going from here?
So I believe there's a chance, not a great chance, but there's a chance. But a few things need to happen. We have to beat Georgia. We have to beat Missouri. We need a couple Florida losses, and then we need to win against Kentucky this week. Ceiling, I want to say, is 10-2. I think it's still possible. More realistically, I would say 9-3. Not going to say who that last loss is to, or who the win is to, but I think 9-3. I think I would be satisfied with a 9-3 year.
9-3. Do you guys agree? Disagree? What do you guys got?
I agree. I mean, I don't think there's any Vol fan that can confidently say there's any hope of a playoff spot, obviously. I think right now they're just hoping for a good bowl game. And, I feel like the Vols have to be perfect the rest of the season if they want any chance at a good bowl game.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look next week. We do have Kentucky next week. As much as we've been focusing on this Alabama loss, give me your guys' picks. We're going to start with Zach. Give me your picks for who you think or what you think the outcome of this game is going to be this weekend.
So, Kentucky's a basketball school. Plain and simple. And to us, they're little brother. No matter how bad Tennessee's done over the years, we've always found the way to beat Kentucky. We saw it last year. We saw it under Heupel's first year where we went in there and had a shootout. I'm going to say 34-24 Vols.
There we go. Luke, give me your pick.
I think the Kentucky fans are going to be rowdy. They're going to, obviously want to win this game, but I think there's the Vols are going to go in there, do their thing, clean up on defense. I think Joe Milton's going to have another good game. He showed us that he can throw the ball. I think they're going to keep doing that. I got the Vols 31-21.
Colton?
Yeah, I agree with both what you said. 30-17 for my final score. I think Tennessee's just a better team than Kentucky. And I know it's a away game. Like you said, fans are going to be rowdy, but I think we've got this one. 30-17, my final score.
Well, there we go. We can kind of write the course of what's been going on lately. But, alrighty, that's all the time we have. So we hope that the Vols can turn it around in Lexington. But that is all for us for the Orange Zone. But when we return, we will have a festive segment where we keep talking college football. In the meantime, we will send it over to Grant and Luke for this week's Pick 6. Hit it, guys.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Torch Sports. I'm Luke Lamry.
And I'm Grant Porch.
And we are back bringing you this week's Pick 6.
We let the Torch Sports Instagram followers pick winners from 6 of the top NFL and college football matchups of the weekend. And we'll put in our picks and talk it over.
Let's get into it with matchup number 1 in the NFL, the Packers taking on the Vikings in Minnesota. Grant, what are you thinking?
Well, Green Bay's coming into this game off a rough loss last week by scoring 19-17 in Denver. To me, that was rather shocking as the Packers were coming off a bye week and the Broncos have been struggling mightily this year. On the other hand, the Vikings are coming off a stunning win over the 49ers on Monday night. And in this matchup, we have two teams going completely different directions. Jordan Love hasn't looked as good as he did in the first couple weeks of the season. And on the flip side, Minnesota having Jordan Addison fill in Justin Jefferson's shoes has kept the offense afloat and shows that the Vikings will continue to improve as the season goes on. Give me the Vikings in this one.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. With the Packers on a 3-game losing streak and coming off a tough loss in Denver, it is not looking good for Green Bay. Kirk Cousins showed up on primetime on Monday, and even with Justin Jefferson on injured reserve, Cousins leads the NFL with 16 passing touchdowns and is second in passing yards. Vikings defensive end Danielle Hunter leads the NFL with 9 sacks and 12 tackles for losses, and the Packers have struggled to protect Jordan Love. I think the odds are in favor of the Vikings. Give me Minnesota on this one.
Next up, let's take a look at a highly anticipated matchup between the Rams and Dallas in AT&T Stadium.
The Cowboys are off their only bye week of the season, and the Rams are coming off a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cowboys' defense has to stop 2 absolute beasts in the Rams receiving corps with Kupp and Nacua. However, the Rams' running game is just lacking. The Cowboys' defense is ranked 5th in least yards allowed per game, so if they can contain the Rams' receivers, the Dallas offense will take care of business. Give me Dallas.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. Dallas enters this game after a much-needed bye week. In their last 2 matchups, they got drilled by the 49ers and had to squeak out a win in overtime against the Chargers in primetime. While the Cowboys are a good team, they haven't hit their stride yet. I see Dallas beginning to soar this week with a solid win over LA. And you made a good point about the LA receivers, but Dallas ranks 3rd in the league in passing yards against. That certainly isn't for no reason. And the Cowboys will show us why they are one of the better teams in the league. So give me Dallas.
I gotcha. Well, our last game in the NFL, we have the Bengals and the 49ers in San Francisco.
Like the Packers and Vikings game, this game features teams going in separate directions. Brock Purdy's Linsanity run might just be over. In the past 2 games, the 49ers lost in big part because of Brock Purdy's turnovers at inopportune moments. While I do think he bounces back at some point, it's unrealistic for him to throw for 3 touchdowns and no interceptions while also winning every single game. And as of Wednesday, Brock Purdy hadn't been practicing this week. According to RotoWire.com, Purdy developed concussion symptoms on the flight back to San Francisco. And if he's unable to play against the Bengals, the 49ers will be forced to turn to Sam Darnold as the starter for the game. If Darnold is starting in this one, count it in for Cincinnati. Even if Purdy plays, there are still some issues that need to be fixed, and they'll be hard-pressed to figure them out against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Give me Cincinnati.
I gotcha. Again, I got to agree with you. This might be the game of the week in the NFL right here, with the Bengals fresh off a bye and the 49ers recovering from a game where Brock Purdy flat out didn't look good. The momentum in my eyes sways with the Bengals. And you're right. If Brock Purdy is out, in comes Sam Darnold, and the momentum is with the Bengals more than ever. Let me tell you this. The 49ers are on a 2-game losing streak, and as much as I believe the 49ers aren't losing 3 in a row, Joe is healthier than earlier in the season. And I'll tell you this, along with the bye week, I got to give it to the Bengals here.
Well, now we're going to switch over to the college football world. We have number 1 ranked Georgia going down to Jacksonville to play Florida in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yeah, Grant, this is a big SEC game, and right now, Georgia is the number 1 in college football. While they don't have tight end Brock Bowers, I don't think the Gators stand a chance here. Even though the Gators beat the Vols and rank 3rd in the SEC East, the Gators have lacked offensive production. While Florida has some stack runners in Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, it should be absolutely no problem for the Bulldogs and Carson Beck. Give me Georgia.
I agree with you. This is going to be one of those games that'll be very fun if you don't like the Florida Gators.
Yeah.
Georgia is going to humble them in embarrassing fashion. The Dogs have a knack for whooping someone that's in their direct path to the SEC championship or even the college football playoff. Outside of Missouri, Florida is the only team that can beat Georgia and in doing so get to Atlanta because they have only 1 SEC loss at this point. One of the main reasons for Florida's surprising success this season, though, is quarterback Graham Mertz. He has 12 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, and he was the catalyst in their 41-39 win over South Carolina and Columbia. He is more than due, though, to have a bad game, and I see that coming against Georgia. Dogs win this one by a lot.
I gotcha. Now we go back inside the AP Top 25 with number 8 Oregon taking on 13 Utah. Grant, what are you thinking?
Well, the unfortunate thing about this matchup is that it just came out this past week that Utah will be without quarterback Cam Rising for the rest of the season. While Utah has played their entire season without him already, he would have made a huge difference if he could have returned for this matchup against the Ducks. Utah is a tough team without Rising, but I see Oregon coming out on top thanks to Bo Nix and the rest of that steaming hot Oregon offense.
Listen to this stat, Grant. The Utes have won their last 29 of 30 at home, a tough stat for Oregon to overcome. However, as well coached as the Utes are and as good as their defense is, not to mention Cam Rising out of the ballgame for this one, I don't see them keeping up with Oregon's offense. The Utes rank 101st on yards per play. The Ducks rank 3rd. I got to go Oregon all the way.
And finally, we have the big one. Our own Tennessee Vols are taking on 5-2 Kentucky in Lexington.
Yeah, Grant. Like you said, our very own Tennessee Volunteers are away at the University of Kentucky in Kroger Field after Tennessee's loss at Alabama. The Vols are reeling. We had a fantastic start against Bama, but collapsed second half. I think Joe had a good game. I think he's got to keep it up. And honestly, I think Devin Leary is just a bum compared to him. I'm just putting that out there. The running game struggled for the first time against Bama. I think they need to pick it up. Regardless, I go Vols all the way here.
This is going to be an extremely tough matchup for Tennessee as Kentucky thrives in physical games. Last time out for the Wildcats, they lost 38-21 at home against Missouri. The score in and of itself doesn't tell the whole story, though. Offensively, Missouri only went for 332 yards and was aided by 3 second-half turnovers by Kentucky that led to just 6 points for Missouri. And while that isn't a lot based on 3 turnovers, Kentucky needed those possessions desperately as they were trailing at the time of each of those turnovers. Now, it's unlikely that Kentucky will turn the ball over 3 times in this one, but Tennessee will challenge Kentucky to beat them with their strength. Now, when we saw Kentucky challenge physically against Georgia, we saw how ugly that turned out for Kentucky. Tennessee won't blow out Kentucky the way that Georgia did, but the play style here cannot be ignored. That said, Vols win this one in a close, ugly game. And that'll be it for the Pick 6 this week. Be sure to turn in next week for more great insight.
Hey
everyone, welcome to our special Halloween episode. I'm Jordan Smitherman alongside Matthew Selitsky and Caitlin Gill, and we have an exciting episode lined up for you today, starting with the NBA. And before the season even started, one of the biggest superstars in Giannis Antetokounmpo received a 3-year, $186 million extension. But now that the season has started and we're in the middle of the Premier Week, which player or team has impressed you guys the most? Do you want to start off?
So I'm going to hit on the big man, Giannis. He's getting paid, and in the beginning of the season, people were hesitant where he would even go, but obviously Dame came, and he signed a year early. He said he was going to do it because he didn't want to stress out Bucks fans or anyone to question his loyalty, and his direct response was, "It was the first time in my career that I didn't know the number of my contract. I just signed because I wanted to be here. I'm very loyal. The Bucks gave me my start, and this city shows me a lot of love. Shows me space. I can't turn my back." And a lot of people are debating right now whether he's worth that all $186 million. And I think absolutely. He is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He is the foundation of the city. Pfizer Forum came with him, Deer District, and arguably the entire Bucks fan base. We're international now. And he's not just doing things off the court, especially on. So he's been selected to 7 All-Star games, won the Most Improved Player Award, 1 Defensive Player of the Year award, 2 MVPs, 1 Finals MVP, and most importantly, 1 NBA championship. And in terms of the Bucks franchise, he has the most career points with 16,280. So I think he's worth every cent of this deal. He's worth our entire franchise. And fun fact, Matthew, you might like this one. 2021, Giannis signed an extension, and guess what happened? Bucks won a championship. So signs 2023. Could this be an indicator of what's going to happen in 2024? We shall see.
Well, he had an MVP season last year, and you look now that as he had such a great year, he goes into the playoffs as the #1 seed and stinks it up. And I know he was injured the first 2 games. They lose to the Miami Heat, but without a doubt, he's the second best player in the NBA next to Jokic. He deserves every dollar, that $186 million. The only question is, how much do you believe that he wanted to wait and he wanted to show his loyalty? I don't know how much of that I believe. He could have waited next year to sign it and got a 2-year, $250 million for 4 years. So, it kind of makes you wonder, is there something going on in Milwaukee? Does he just want to avoid a career-ending injury? I mean, there's a bunch of different factors. But at the end of the day, 186 to 250, that's not that much difference of money when you're dealing with that big of an amount.
Yes. Now moving on to the MLB, the World Series is set, and it features 2 teams in the Diamondbacks and the Rangers that haven't made it in over 10 years. So now that we got some fresh blood in the MLB playoffs, who do you guys have as your pick? Do you want to break down the series for us?
Yeah, sure. So you have 2 teams that, for one, are both extremely young, and both are riding that momentum train. I mean, they have had 2 enormously hard paths to get to the World Series. You talk about the Rangers, who have had to face the Rays, who could be known as the #1 team in the MLB talent-wise. Then you face the Orioles, who are the second-best team record-wise in the MLB, and of course the Astros, who have been in that position 7 straight years in a row, right? Then you go to the Diamondbacks, who faced the Brewers, who won their division, second-best division in the MLB, in my opinion. They stunk it up as usual. Then you go to the Dodgers, who arguably could be the best talent team in the NL, aside from the Braves. And then you have the Phillies, who are last year's NL reigning champs, and now this year, certainly enough talent to go to the World Series. So there's a lot to go on. You have 2 teams that are really young. For Arizona, they don't care so much about winning as much as they do about having fun. How do you have fun? You win. That's the kind of vibe in Arizona, and they could win purely because of momentum. Now Texas, they have a lot more talent. Their starting pitching is great. Their relief pitching is their biggest issue. We'll see how they do it. Give me the Rangers in 6. I think they have enough. They have home field advantage. So Rangers have a lot going for them over the Diamondbacks.
Nice. What about you, Caitlin? Who you got?
Okay, y'all know me, and since it's Halloween, I brought my little friend for its first Torch Sports appearance. And I'm taking the Diamondbacks, and let me tell you why. A Brewers reverse curse. I was waiting 2 weeks ago to say this, and it lives on, y'all. The Brewers have made 5 postseason appearances in the last 6 years and have been in the postseason 9 times in team history. And over those 42 years, one thing has remained true. Every team that beats the Milwaukee Brewers in the playoffs ends their season in a World Series. And here we are. It lives on, y'all.
Wow.
And with their win over the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, although the least likely to keep the Magic alive this season, only 84 wins. But we entered the series with some pretty good odds. Opponents are now 9-0 against the 4-1-4 in World Series appearances and are 6-2 in the World Series itself. So I think it's safe to say I'm going with the Diamondbacks. Matthew, watch.
Milwaukee sports, just like Boston and Philly, just choke. It has nothing to do with a curse.
Oh boy, we got some tension brewing, but we'll see how the World Series plays out. And then now into the NFL. There's always some chaos going on in the NFL, whether it's the off season or the regular season. That is certainly the case for this week as the trade deadline is approaching. The biggest trade this week was that the Titans sending All-Pro and star safety Kevin Byard to the Eagles. With the Titans trading one of their cornerstones and leaders, what do you think they're going to do with Derrick Henry now, Matthew?
Well, I don't think Derrick Henry moves. If he does, he probably gets traded to the Ravens purely because they need a running back, right? So J.K. Dobbins is still out as usual, but I can't see him being moved. I just don't see you trading your franchise piece.
Caitlin, what about you?
I'm on the same boat. I don't know how they've allowed Philadelphia to take literally all their star players. I mean, A.J. Brown was just, it blew my mind. I don't understand that move literally at all. I mean, Terrell Edmonds, he isn't a horrible addition, but he's not him.
It's like you're trading Kevin Byard All-Pro for a bag of chips, and that's the same thing that happened with A.J. Brown. I don't get it.
Blows my mind.
Yeah, it blows my mind too. So, speaking of trade, do you think other players like your favorite Davante Adams could be on the trade block with the Raiders?
I think he needs to leave, like point blank period.
Okay.
Last week there was a whole thing he was talking about they aren't seeing eye to eye and he doesn't think they fit in their scheme. But now, because he had 6 catches on 9 targets in his 2 games prior to Sunday, and how do the Raiders respond? Okay, give him 12 targets, 7 catches, and 55 yards. They are wasting his Hall of Fame career right now. And, that's just putting it lightly. Because he hasn't had a touchdown catch in over a month. And in his 8 years with the Packers, Davante sealed his fate in their Hall of Fame. As President Mark Murphy literally said, he's going to welcome Davante back. And now he's second all-time for the Packers with 669 catches, 4th all-time with 8,121 yards, and second all-time with 73 touchdowns in 116 games. You keep looking at the cheese. If he wants to go to the Hall of Fame, he's got to leave now.
And you think he would make Jordan Love the greatest quarterback in NFL history, right?
No, I don't. I don't think he's coming back to Green Bay. But he's got to go somewhere. And you can argue too, okay, Aaron Rodgers made Davante Adams. No, he's got that star power in himself, but he needs a quarterback that has that same star power or is not going to perform. He came here for Derek Carr, 5 years. Why would you sign a 5-year contract to go play with your college best friend, and he leaves next year? And now Jimmy Garoppolo's hurt. What is he playing
I don't know
for?
why people do a bunch of things. Why Milwaukee continues to choke, why you're wearing a cheese head. I don't know.
Well, we're going to have to settle that debate off camera. And that is all we have for you this week. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Orange Zone Halloween special. That's Zach, Colton, and Luke. I'm Jackson Schock. We've got our costumes on, and we'll be going trick-or-treating through college football. We'll be discussing teams that we think are wearing costumes, teams and players we think are scary good, and our favorite alternate jerseys thus far this season. So, without further ado, let's head down south for our first team in costume.
Let me get my notes real quick. Yeah, I mean, to me, LSU just hasn't looked like a top 15 team so far this season. They've only played 3 ranked opponents. They're 1-2. Not a great track record. They barely beat Arkansas, which they should have run away with that game. And they just haven't looked like the solid team that I think a lot of people were expecting going into this year.
Yeah, definitely not. Colton, who you got?
Yeah, well, you mentioned LSU being 1-2 against ranked teams. At least they've played a ranked team this season, because this team has not. There's no question that deserve to be in the top 15, but number 1, I mean, I don't get it. I mean, every single other team that is undefeated at least has a top 20 win. Every single one of them, and LSU and Georgia rather. They haven't even played a ranked team. They have the second worst strength of schedule in the entire Power 5. I mean, you look at a team in second, Michigan, they haven't played anybody either, but they have absolutely clobbered every team they've played. Then you go to Ohio State, they've got 2 top 15 wins. Oklahoma has a top 10 win, Washington has a top 10 win. And I mean, you're just looking too much at the national championship team from last year, but they lost 9 starters. I mean, including their starting quarterback, Heisman candidate Stetson Bennett, and probably the best defensive player in the country in Jalen Carter. This is not the same team from last year. I mean, they've played they have, like I said, they haven't had a good schedule so far this season. They've played some close games. I mean, against Auburn and South Carolina, and those teams have a combined 1 SEC win. So, going forward, they have some tough games coming up, and I could easily see them losing to Tennessee or Missouri. And my big prediction, I don't think they're going to make the college football playoff. I think they're going to miss out. If they go into the SEC championship game undefeated, they've still got to play Alabama. Alabama will more than likely only have 1 loss. They could lose to LSU, but if they go in that only have one loss. They beat Georgia. Alabama gets in over them, and Georgia's out. So I think Georgia's going to miss out. And I do not think they're the best team in the country, not even close.
There's a costume for you. Zach, talk us through it.
So, UNC, I don't know if anyone saw, but lost to Virginia at home. And you don't really do that when you're a number team 10 in the country, unless you're Tennessee from last year. I think, like what Luke was saying, they're more the LSU of the ACC, in my opinion. I think Drake May had himself a horrible game. 50% completion rating, not the best. So UNC, frauds, in my opinion.
All right, well, let's go to scary good now. Let's focus on the good sides. Who's got Oklahoma? Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Oklahoma's looked like a flawless team so far this season. I mean, they're undefeated. They've had a lot of really good wins, and I mean, they've proved they can play against the best. I mean, you saw it in the game against Texas. You know, the Red River rivalry, a big matchup. You know, they show up, they show out, and they win the game. And I mean, they've had a ton of success this whole season. Like I've mentioned, they're undefeated, and they've proven they can play against the best teams of the best. And you know, I think they deserve to be ranked where they are.
Absolutely, Colton.
Yeah, I mean, I think Michigan is by far the best team in college football. I mean, I really don't even think it's even close. I mean, we talked about the resume, and it might sound a little hypocritical talking about Georgia, how their resume is, when Michigan has the worst strength of schedule in the entire NCAA. But they have beat every single team. I mean, they've absolutely killed everybody. And you got to play you got to beat the teams that you play. And this season, their defense has given up no more than one touchdown in any game this season. I don't care who you play. That's a really, really impressive statistic. I mean, nobody else in college football has that statistic. And they're also extremely well disciplined, extremely well coached. They have the second least amount of penalties per game, 2.88 per game. You know, I just think they're the best team in the country. They play some tough games going forward. Penn State, Ohio State, they got to win those. But I have no doubt they'll win those. And I would be surprised if they were not the national champion come January.
Wow, well, certainly a chance to prove themselves. Zach, what you got?
So I got the Huskies, and I think after that Oregon game, I think they solidified themselves as real contenders for the college football playoffs. I mean, Michael Penix Jr. is just an elite quarterback. He's my favorite for the Heisman. Their top receiver, Rome, he's already over 1,000 yards this season, on his way to close to 2,000 yards. In my opinion, these guys are legit.
Wow, let's go to our scary individual players. Talk us through it.
Yeah,
Switch it from Oklahoma to Texas. That's got to be a little weird.
I know, it's a little weird, but to me, Xavier Worthy's been phenomenal this season. I mean, he's got 545 receiving yards, but he's the kind of guy that'll turn short throws into big plays. His route running's great. He's got the sense to judge where everyone else is on the field, and I think he's the guy that you would want as your wide receiver one if you're a football team in the NCAA right now.
Absolutely, yep. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, Luther Burden III, apparently nobody here knows who that is, so this is definitely a good player to pick for this.
We're going to know in about 2 weeks
but,
when Tennessee plays him.
Yeah, he's third in receiving touchdowns in the SEC, second in the country in receiving yards. And honestly, I just really like his story. He was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, was ranked as the #1 wide receiver in the country, as a consensus top 15 recruit, decided to stay at home, go to Missouri over Georgia and Alabama. His first year is really disappointing, not only for Missouri, but for him as well. He ranked third on the team in receiving yards, being one of their highest rated recruits. That's not what he expected. A lot of people expected him to enter the transfer portal. I mean, he had every single team in the country pretty much looking at him, and he could have gone anywhere he wanted, but he decided to stay home, stay at Missouri, and, you know, probably turned down a lot of NIL money, a chance to win a national championship, to stay home with Missouri. And now, I mean, they're having one of their best seasons in program history, and he's a big reason for that. And, yeah, I just think it's a really awesome story. I mean, Missouri has a chance to get to a New Year's Six bowl game. I mean, they got a chance to play in the SEC championship if they can beat Georgia coming up. And I think Luther Burden's a big reason for that.
That's awesome. Homegrown talent.
I think another big reason for that is their quarterback, Brady Cook. I mean,
sticking with Mizzou.
Missouri is not who they are without this guy. He is elite. He is a real threat on with his arm and with his legs. He ran for, last year when Tennessee played them, ran for over 100 yards, leading rusher on the team. I think that they are going to make a huge run and to give Tennessee a run for their money coming up.
Ooh, we're going to get to that next week, but now let's kind of lighten the mood. We got our costumes on. Which do you guys think are the best alternate jerseys thus far? We're going to start with you, Luke.
I mean, I've always been a sucker for baby blue. If you know me, you know that any baby blue jersey, you know, I'm leaning towards that. And to me, this Ole Miss jersey is one of the best baby blues out there. The hint of red on the helmet, I think it just pulls it all together. The blue and white. You know, a lot of people ask me if I like the North Carolina jerseys. I do, but I think the Ole Miss, they got them with the helmets. I think that adds to the whole,
That's beautiful.
whole aspect.
That's beautiful. Colton, what you got?
Yeah, these are the Miami Knights jersey. They only wear them once a year, but I think these are the coolest jerseys. I love black jerseys. I just think they look so cool. And these, they kind of have like a glow-in-the-dark effect. You know, the green and the orange, they kind of glow in the dark. And they even wear the gloves. When they do the U, it glows in the dark with the U on the gloves. They're so awesome. I think they're by far the best jerseys in college football.
And the one time they wore them this year, do you know what happened?
Yeah, they lost.
You know what?
Georgia Tech.
They still
We
looked
talked
good
about
doing
that
it.
right here in our frights. Now let's move on. Zach, who do you like?
I like Oregon. I can't say it's an alternate jersey because I don't think they wear the same jersey twice. But just the cookies and cream look with the chrome helmets and the kind of neon platinum green, I think it's just a great combo. But, the Huskies did beat them in those jerseys. So.
Dude, seems like when you wear cool jerseys, you lose. So let's hope Tennessee doesn't break any more out. Jeez. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you guys so much for watching the Halloween special. For Zach, Colton, and Luke, I'm Jackson Schock. Have a safe and very happy Halloween, and we'll see you right here next week. Peace.
Yeah, my costume's a little over the top, but I gotta get my money's worth somehow. So here we are. Hi, I'm Jake King here with Sportscast, and today we don't have one subject, but we have two subjects. First, let's talk about the Tennessee football team and address the elephant in the room. I'll go quick and painless, unlike the game. This loss was inexcusable. We blew a 20-7 lead. Honestly, I kind of had expected. It was in Tuscaloosa. They were just the better team. But the problem was that we lost 2 touchdowns in the red zone in the first half. All right, if we scored touchdowns instead of field goals in that first half, it would have been a 28-7 lead going into the half, which of course we still probably would have lost because we allowed 27 points in the second half, but we'd have a better lead. But yeah, it was a team effort in the second half. The main problem of the game was the second half defense. 27 points in 1.5 quarters is flat out unacceptable. It is. Leaving, who was it? Isaiah Bond wide open on that touchdown, inexcusable. Another thing was the pass protection. That Joe Milton strip sack was not good at all. And yeah, this was a rough game. We are basically out of SEC championship contention. We're out of the college football playoff contention. Hopefully we can make it to an all right bowl game. This was not a very good week for Tennessee football. But on to the real subject, and that is the Tennessee Titans. We traded away Kevin Byard to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 5th and 6th round pick and Terrell Edmunds. And honestly, I wasn't too against that deal. We needed more draft capital. That's what we need because we're obviously in rebuild mode now. The problem that I have with it is how we basically wasted a whole Super Bowl window. After our AFC Championship appearance in 2019, we shocked the world, had a Cinderella run that year. We were looking to win a Super Bowl in 2020, and we had a top 5 offense in the league. Arthur Smith was our offensive coordinator. And what do we do on defense? We forget to hire a defensive coordinator. We had one of the worst third down defenses in NFL history. We did have a top 5 offense, and Derrick Henry went for 2,000 yards, but we lost to the Ravens in the wild card round, and Lamar Jackson ran all over us. So then a year later, what we do is, guess what? We hire a defensive coordinator. Hooray. Our defense gets way better. Only problem, we hired the worst offensive coordinator I have ever seen. No, it's not Matt Canada. It was Todd Downing. Our defense was top 10 in the NFL. Our offense was abysmal. We had the 1 seed in the NFL despite a very injured team. And we played against the Cincinnati Bengals in the divisional round. Long story short, we lost. It was our offense that was very incompetent. They played all right in the second half, but we ended up losing that game. And then the A.J. Brown trade happened. That's basically where our Super Bowl window went out of the way, was the A.J. Brown trade. I was in denial when it happened. I defended John Robinson on the trade. I don't anymore, obviously, because A.J. Brown is now a top 5 receiver on a Super Bowl team. But yeah, no, the 2022 season, absolute disaster. The AFC South was wide open, and we started the season 7-2. And then how do we respond to that? We lose 8 straight, going 7-10. in a de facto playoff game versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's how we lost our Super Bowl window. Yeah, it's rough being a Titans fan. I'm Jay King. This is Sportscast, and Will Levis is our savior.
That concludes this week's episode of Torch Sports. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Torch Sports UTK and on TikTok at Torch Sports. See you next week, and go Vols!